Gen Alpha still can't read. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. And it's not just Gen Alpha can't read, it's that Gen Alpha has the brain power of a South American hippopotamus. They don't have the neural connections firing to understand anything, even slightly abstract. And one of those things is reading. So reading is not the problem, reading is a symptom of Gen Alpha not being able to think. When Gen Alpha gets a paragraph, they don't even know what the paragraph was about. They don't know what a paragraph is.
My 5th graders with significant language-based learning disabilities could write better than non-disabled 7th graders can now. They can't write a sentence. They don't know what state they live in. They don't know what region of the country they're in. They have no background knowledge. Most of them don't know who the president is. They can't even attend to a 3-minute video clip. I can play it, I can tell them what it's going to be about, I can summarize what the video did, and not a single one can tell me what the video was about.
When Gen Alpha has to use a computer, they can't even use a mouse because they're just so used to using apps that they have the computer literacy of elderly grandparents.
These kids didn't understand the differences between an upload or a download or a desktop and a laptop computer. Or when she was trying to tell a girl to, click on a screen share icon, she actually physically picked up the mouse and tried to move it, like the early days of the internet. But it's so unfathomable, like it's been around for so long. We all know to slide it. A bunch of teachers were sounding off saying that, yeah, a lot of kids don't even know how to type properly. A lot of them don't know how to search or use search engines. They don't know how to use the internet. They only know how to use apps. I use TikTok to promote my writing. It is in my bio. The comment section will still be flooded with people asking where they can read it.
Did you catch that? Gen Alpha has been so hippopotamisified that an influencer will say, click the link in my bio, and Gen Alpha will be like, where is a bio? What is a link? Like, when influencer slang is too advanced for you, when Brent Rivera is like Shakespeare to you, you know we're cooked. We're in more trouble than a daycare run by P. Diddy, okay?
I'm Sean Diddy Combs.
The video you're about to watch is so sad. Gen Alpha can't even read a clock. And then finally, there's a bit of hope. It looks like there's gonna be some Gen Alpha kids who can read a clock. And then, of course, it turns out they can read it because they're not Gen Alpha.
What time does this clock show?
This clock shows...
What time does this clock show?
I don't know. I can't read Roman numerals like that.
Did she just say she can't read Roman numerals like that?
What time does this clock show?
Oh, it says 1:25. 1:25. We're not Gen Alpha.
So look, right now Gen Alpha is the subject of my YouTube videos. They're destroying the school system, but they haven't entered the workforce yet. What happens when we don't have Gen Alpha to make YouTube videos about, when Gen Alpha isn't just making teachers quit in school, but Gen Alpha becomes adults, and they bring their lack of literacy to the adult workforce? So you'll have Gen Alpha epidemiologists who think that you need to study for a COVID test. You'll have Gen Alpha football players who think a quarterback is a refund. And you'll have Gen Alpha influencers who don't know what link in bio means. Like, I swear, it wasn't this bad when I made my first Gen Alpha video. Now Gen Alpha can't even read instructions.
They would literally take the packet and be like, raise their hand, I don't know what to do. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know what to do? The first thing I asked them, did you read the instructions? They'd be like, oh, no.
That is too good. Hey, what do I do? Did you read the instructions? Oh, no.
I had some student ask me how to pronounce the word abbreviation and then asked me what that meant. One girl didn't know what segregated meant. So I was just like, y'all are like 12 or 13 that don't know what segregated means, don't know what an abbreviation is.
They can't even write their full name.
This kindergarten teacher, and she made like a little slideshow with things that, the children need to know before they come into kindergarten. Make sure they know how to read and write their names. Then I got in the comment section, a woman's gonna say, this is why I'm homeschooling my children. This is not like developmentally like appropriate tasks for their ages. What the fuck are y'all doing in the house that your child doesn't know how to read their name and write their name by 5?
Your name's Daniel.
Yeah.
Josue Daniel.
I have kids constantly asking me, how do I spell window? How do I spell important? How do I spell though? And they be serious. They're dead serious.
Hey, Riley. Hey.
Does he know about the D-O-R-E?
Huh?
The door.
What's so scary about that video, and all the other ones, is you think, okay, there's some Gen Alpha kids who are a few sandwiches short of a picnic, if you know what I mean. But surely, there's gotta be some bright, shining stars of the Gen Alpha community. But the thing is, I can't find any. I can't find any videos of Gen Alpha teachers going,
You know what? it's not that bad.
Or a teacher going,
my class of Gen Alpha kids is smarter than a can of tuna.
like no one is saying even that much. And hot take, but the plural of anecdote is data. When everybody is saying the exact same thing, you know it's a problem. And this is to say nothing of all the stats that say Gen Alpha's IQ is dropping faster than Nike's shoe sales when Dan Schneider comes to town. But on the deeper side, I think Gen Alpha is actually smarter than we give them credit for. We're just letting them escape any kind of difficulty, so they masquerade as dumb. Like this teacher. She talks about how none of her kids will follow basic instructions. But I think the kids kind of can follow the instructions, at least somewhat. They're just weaponizing their incompetence so they can get out of doing schoolwork, because the teachers will let them get away with it.
It feels like teaching an entire generation of weaponized incompetence. Because what do you mean you can't just reread the directions that I strained my voice to read out loud 3 times? It's an alternate ending to The Outsiders. You get to do whatever you want, and you were given enough information, notice, and preparation. Now you can just sit down and write anything you want. Ponyboy does this, Johnny doesn't die, whatever you want to do. And they're just sitting there like this. I can't help you. The only metaphor I could think of to try and motivate them was that every year my kids have 2 sets of grandparents. One set of grandparents just gets a blank happy birthday card and then they write love grandma. The kids don't keep those cards. The other grandparents get detailed cards and write, on the day you were born, I love you so much. My kids keep those cards. You guys are going to be the grandparents that just writes love grandma.
They're following Roderick's #1 lesson. Never be good at something you don't want to do.
Rule number 1, don't be good at something you don't want to do.
Guys! Use clean rags! Nah, just... give me that! I'll do it myself.
Rule number 2, always lower mom and dad's expectations.
Hey, I took a math test today and I'm pretty sure I flunked it.
Oh, Greg.
But I got it back and look, I got a C-.
Well, at least you didn't fail.
So teachers will be like, I'll just make it easier, or I'll do it for you. And then the kids are reinforced in their incompetence, and they have no incentive to become smarter or to seem like they're smarter. And all of history tells us everything we're doing is a bad idea. Not that anyone knows history anymore. After the Civil War, thousands of intelligent and educated school teachers from the North came down south to educate the newly freed black population. These educators were strict, and they held the kids to a really high standard, even though they were former slaves and had no history of education. They held them to a high standard because the teachers knew what these kids were capable of. They knew that they could totally turn their lives around and transform them into these great thinkers and competent workers. And the results were marvelous. You had a whole new generation of black leaders and black thinkers that came from specifically this initiative. Almost every major black leader that you know the name of today from the 19th century was a product of this kind of education. George Washington Carver, Ida B. Wells, Booker T. Washington. W.E.B. Du Bois called it the most beautiful thing ever done. That's high praise. And I can't help but think about that story happening in reverse to Gen Alpha. We're lowering standards, we're not failing kids, and we're allowing them to indulge in their very own worst tendencies to avoid thinking and to just satiate their dopamine-starved minds with iPad videos. There's a World War I movie called Blue Max, where this military commander is encouraging his daredevil pilot to do all sorts of unsafe stunts, knowing that it's probably going to get the pilot killed, because the military commander found him to be a political problem. In the same way, I fear we're not leading this next generation of kids. We're almost encouraging them to be like the daredevil in Blue Max, to indulge in their worst impulses. We're essentially encouraging them to not read, to not understand, and to fritter their childhoods away because it's easier for us. That way we don't have to fail them. That way we don't have to intervene. That way we don't have to really make sure they're learning. And it's of course the parents who in some ways are ultimately responsible, because when their kids don't get an A, oftentimes these parents will intervene and chastise the teacher. And when teachers get enough emails of parents upset like this, the teachers will think, what's the point of actually grading the kids' works honestly? Let's just give them an A. And so it seems like every kid's getting an A and the IQ of the country slips a few points.
Emails that I've gotten from parents. Coach Phillips, Chase received a B on his project. I reviewed it. It was clearly A-level work. What rubric are you using? And how long have you been teaching this subject? I assume this is just an oversight due to inexperience. Please correct. Chase's father. Good morning. Emma was late because it was raining and she doesn't like the rain. It really affects her mood. Please mark her present but not late. Blessings. Emma's dad. Hi, I saw that Olivia has a 72. We were hoping for at least a 90. Is there anything we can do to adjust that? We feel like a B better reflects her potential. Let me know what paperwork I need to fill out. Olivia's mom. Next one. Subject, group project concerns. Hi, Avery mentioned her group members didn't do their share. As you know, she naturally assumes leadership roles. Is there a way she can receive additional credit for carrying the team emotionally? Thank you for recognizing her strengths. Sincerely, proud parent. This one, actually crazy. Good afternoon. As taxpayers, we simply want to ensure our contributions are resulting in a positive academic experience for Elizabeth. Currently, she has a C. We would appreciate clarification on how our taxes align with this grade.
Excuse me, this grade is not aligning with my tax dollars. Can you give me a refund on the tax dollars or a better grade, please? I'm going to use that line. For sure. You just call up Sesame Street because it's publicly funded. That episode did not align with my tax dollars. Can I have me starring in the next one, please? Thank you. This is why the number of A's given out at top colleges, let alone elementary school, has quadrupled in the last few decades. Right now, Harvard is having a whole crisis because a bunch of professors are saying we need to stop giving an A out for anyone who just brings a pencil to class. Even elite universities aren't immune to the Gen Alpha-ication of education. Princeton students can't read either. Neuroscientist Marion Wolf details in her book, Read or Come Home, that reading is actually not natural to the human mind. Rather, you become a good reader through years of sustained effort and training. Think about it, historically, no one's been able to read. It's a very new skill on the historical timeline. In school, I think a lot of us learned the story of Sequoia, who was an American Indian who decided to teach his daughter how to read. And when he achieved it and showed the people around him, they were stunned that he could write something down on paper and she could know what he's saying just by looking at that paper rather than saying it out loud. Because reading is an accomplishment. Reading is something we have to continually do. It's not something that comes naturally to us. And we're learning that lesson in the extreme hard way right now. Wolf writes that it requires sustained attention, the ability to process abstract ideas, and working memory to read.
Do you think Gen Alpha can do any one of those things?
Look, even Yale and Harvard students are increasingly illiterate.
Some elite university professors are reporting that their students can no longer read books. But it's not entirely the students' fault. To read a book in college, it helps to have read a book in high school. Their students are overwhelmed at the thought of reading multiple books a semester. And one said his students struggle to focus on even a sonnet.
College professors are literally taking books out of the curriculum because Harvard students can't read them. Like at this point, we're not even going to have to fight AI for control over human society. AI is just going to waltz through because all the most important machines will be labeled and all the humans won't be able to read them. And so our kids aren't reading, but they are spending 8 hours a day on screens for entertainment. Our attention is getting completely fragmented. We're consuming a lot of different kinds of information rather than really being able to understand one piece of information deeply. Think about how many different TikToks 8 hours of watching TikTok would entail and how you could probably remember none of them the next day. But Edmund Burke warned us that to read without reflecting is like to eat without digesting. The whole point of reading something is to understand it and the context around it. And some parents get it. You know, some teachers just don't want to enforce learning in their classrooms. Look at how frustrated this mom is.
My daughter is failing. She's failing your class. Is there anything extra we can do to help her? And the lady was just like, no. Like, the grade is what it is. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. You know, there's summer school. Just put her in summer school. Literally, she said, I don't know what you want me to do as her teacher. I'm mad. Ugh!
Here she is trying to have her teacher do her job and actually teach her daughter. And the teacher's like,
yeah, I'd rather not.
Like, that's your whole thing. You're a teacher. That's like Freud asking Martin Luther King Jr. about his dreams. And Martin Luther King is like, I don't really want to talk about it. Sorry. That's your thing. And what's even crazier is you have some comments agreeing that the teacher shouldn't have to teach. Teachers are not at your beck and call. I had an IEP, and mom literally helped me every day with work. I'm imagining if this commenter was a dermatologist, you'd go, hey, can you help with my skin cancer? She's like, I'm busy. You should ask your mom to go help you with that.
Okay, thanks. I'll just go die then.
Like, teachers should be able to teach to the individual student who's having problems. But let's be honest, more often it's the teachers trying to teach and the parents getting in the way. The parents who don't care if their kids fail, the parents who don't realize what that will mean for their kids' lives, and they're just really worried about hurting their kids' egos and telling their kids that they didn't pass the test. So these parents tell their teachers not to give their kids B's, and they enable their kids to not do any schoolwork, not do any homework, and the teachers are blamed for failing test scores. Like, look at these emails parents are sending to teachers.
In the email, the parent said, I know that my child is going to fail your class, and I'm okay with that. And for the longest time, I've been thinking about this email, and I stared at it. So they didn't do any homework. Okay, nothing, no homework, no classwork. They just sat there and did nothing.
Coach Phillips, Noah has been seated next to a child who hums occasionally. While I respect diverse humming styles, Noah finds this acoustically distracting. Would it be possible to relocate him to a non-humming zone? Non-humming zone? Next one. Subject, yesterday's behavior. Good afternoon. I understand Mason fell asleep in class. I'd like to provide context. He had football practice, youth group, 2 snacks, and stayed up until 1:30 a.m. thinking. Exhaustion is not defiance, it is growth. Thank you for understanding his journey. Blessings, Mom.
Wow. But look, there's some truth in the fact that parents need to teach their kids to value being able to read. I can't believe I have to say that. Because the truth is a lot of parents are becoming apathetic. They're not even signing up for parent-teacher conferences, 15 minutes, to see if their kids are learning or not.
Parent-teacher conference is coming up. I have a total of 27 kids. I have 18 that have yet to sign up. 15 minutes of your day.
To quote the visionary George W. Bush, rarely is the question asked, is our kids learning?
Rarely is the question asked, is our children learning?
And we need to start asking, is our kids learning? Because the answer is they is not learning. But you don't know that if you don't find out at the parent-teacher conference. Gosh. There are teachers who literally have 6 students out of 24 who can even read at all. And when the teacher tries to intervene and do something to help the kids, the Kafka-esque bureaucracy of the education system, or parents not wanting their kids to learn anything, will stop them.
I have 2 kids at a kindergarten reading level. I have about 4 kids at a 1st grade reading level. And they're telling me that I have to teach this 4th grade curriculum that these kids can't even read. I have maybe like 6 kids that are on grade level. There is not a time period in the day now that I am allowed to have my kids read or me reading to them, because they have our schedule so jam-packed and we have to do the curriculum to a T.
This is so crazy. Like, apparently the school day is filled with so many things, and not one of them is reading. Look at how this teacher explains that when she was given autonomy and able to cater to the needs of her students, they were able to read and improve reading, because she could see where they're at and help them where they need to be helped. But when the principal gave a top-down approach that said, this is how you need to teach every student the same, because we paid $100,000 for this new curriculum that's awful, the teacher has to ban their kids from reading novels. It's dystopian.
I was able to take my 4th graders through the entire Chronicles of Narnia, all 7 books, in addition to several other books, and they grew so much. And when I had freedom as a teacher, I could do what was best for the students. If they needed small groups, I could do that. If I needed to supplement materials, I was free to do that. But there were years where my instructional coaches and my principals came in and said, no more novels. You are not allowed to read novels with students at all. And during those years, they would make these mandates because they spent probably $100,000 on a new literacy curriculum that was always terrible. And I just had to sit and watch as my students were so sad because they could not read the books that we loved to read together.
What kind of new $100,000 new literacy program is stop reading books? I could have done that for free. Like, idiocracy is seeming more and more like a prophecy. And this teacher's like, when you don't trust teachers to teach their own kids and you force them to all teach the same way to every kid, it creates massive resentment and burnout among teachers, along with poorer learning outcomes, which is why so many teachers are quitting right now. And every time I make one of these videos, it gets worse. It's worse than I think every time. Like, I'm underselling the case. At this point, I'm surprised these kids even know their names. I'm surprised they even know how to brush their teeth, how to go to the bathroom independently.
600 teachers were interviewed, and they said the children don't know their names, how to use the bathroom independently, how to brush their teeth.
Are you kidding me? And here, listen to this. This is the real Faustian bargain at the heart of our current education crisis. Educators think, oh, we need to loosen standards. We need to not fail kids. We need to not be harsh. We need to not force the kids to read when they don't want to. Because that way kids will like school. That way kids will feel comfortable and safe. They won't think their teachers are mean. They're gonna want to come to class. But the opposite is true. As we've let the standards of the education system fall lower than the Mariana Trench, we have created a generation of kids who more than ever before absolutely hate going to school. I remember this going to public school. Everybody was so excited if you got sick or didn't have to come or got to leave early for a dentist appointment. It takes a lot to get excited for a fucking dentist appointment. That's how bad public schools are. And the videos about kids saying this are endless.
I hate school. I hate school. I hate school.
Looking at school is making me want to become a failure. I feel no drive to be here. I feel depressed.
We're on Chromebooks all day. We're barely allowed to talk. Our passing periods are so short, we literally speed walk everywhere. If suffering is your definition of strength, maybe you shouldn't be in charge of the kids who come after you.
My kids hate school, and when I say hate school, despise. I just dropped my kids off at school, and pretty much she's already texting me telling me that she's ready to come home. Like literally, they're sometimes in tears when they're going to school, and I'm like, makes me feel bad.
Come get me. I'm bored. I hate this school. I don't want to be here. Everybody's mean. I don't like anybody. Nobody likes me. Every day. And I'm not exaggerating. I mean, every day. So what can I do besides keep saying, no, you have to be there?
I look at all of my classmates' faces while we're in school right now. We all look like sweatshop workers working at a Bangladeshi Temu factory.
And what's so striking is the more strict schools, the schools that have standards that really want their kids to achieve reading competency, like in Stand and Deliver or To Sir With Love. The kids there like school. They're excited about education and learning, and even, dare I say, reading.
Reading is work, but it's rockin' awesome.
Rockin' awesome? And these kids say school is fun?
Yes.
How is it fun to learn?
They just teach us in a fun way.
So you guys look forward to going to school in the morning?
Yes.
You're interested in math and
Yes. Reading, writing.
But learning is work.
It don't matter.
When school has a purpose, kids are excited about it. When school is meaningless, bureaucratic busy work because no one actually cares if you can read and they'll just pass you through to the next grade, kids rightly look around and say, what's the point? This is also why homeschooling rates are ballooning, and there was just a viral video about why homeschool kids are happier than public schoolers. And another problem is formal education shouldn't be the path for everybody. Maybe you're called to blue-collar work or entrepreneurship. The idea that everybody should graduate from college has caused college to try to accommodate everybody. Funny how that works. Instead of the people who are really interested in abstract ideas and learning and discussing them. Imagine if a butcher shop had to accommodate vegans, or the army had to accommodate narcoleptics. If higher education has to accommodate itself to the lowest common denominator of someone who doesn't want to be there at all, then education is gonna get worse. And the kids who don't want to be there are gonna be worse off because they're forced to be there, and the kids who do want to be there are gonna be worse off because they don't get the rigor that they signed up for, so they don't get to learn as much. This is all being felt every day. Teachers who have been teaching for 30 plus years are now feeling done after 1 month with this crop of Gen Alpha kids.
I've been teaching for 34 years. I've never had it this hard. What is wrong with these kids?
Kids can't keep up with any lesson about anything.
They don't even know how to communicate to each other. They can't text. Ask middle school and high school teachers. Students are using speech to text to communicate with one another outside of school, and it's because they don't know how to write out the words.
So what does a society look like where no kid knows anything? And the solution is not to just double down and give kids more work. The solution is to help them achieve the work they're supposed to be achieving now. We do not need to just load them up with homework. That's not the solution. If you were to pitch the idea of school and you say kids are going to spend 7 hours in this metal box away from the real world, like they've never done in all of history, and then you told me the metal box was so incompetent at teaching that after school ends, the kids have to spend another 2 hours doing homework at home, I would tell you that metal box is failing and you should probably be in jail because kids shouldn't be in a metal box all day in the first place. And that means when kids get home from school, rather than spending time with their friends or their family or getting a job or anything, they have to continue doing these like mindless multiplication tables, which leads to situations like this.
Both of my kids came home from school with homework this weekend. Like, why do they need to have homework? And since like everything has like become so digitalized, you can't come with the dog ate the homework. Yeah, that's not gonna work. And I will literally come up with a bullshit lie. I will. Like, oh, I'm sorry, he can't turn in the 17 assignments you assigned him because we're going scuba diving. Mind you, it's like snow Arctic happening in California.
And also, I haven't even mentioned that according to the US Department of Education, 10% of students face some kind of sexual misconduct from a teacher. That is unbelievable. It's way higher than like the Catholic Church. That is such a high percentage. Our education system needs to be transformed. And what's so sad is we're at the point that like the school system is so messed up and has such perverse incentives that the kids who don't care are increasingly the correct ones.
Unpopular opinion, the high schoolers who don't give a fuck are right. What they're doing doesn't matter. The teacher is saying like consequences don't even matter. If you tell them, hey, you're gonna get these consequences if you don't do this assignment, they're like, I could give a fuck. And that's how a lot of adults are right now. He said that they're telling him like, I don't want to do this assignment and it's okay that I don't want to do it. And that's the truth.
Am I like the only one that thinks that there should be an alternative for people that don't just want to spend 15 years in the education system and then the next 50 working? You legitimately won the cosmic lottery to even be alive. And so you go to hand in that ticket and the guy that's collecting is like, haha, enjoy slavery. Who even came up with this? People 100 years ago did not have like 80% of the jobs that we have now, and they seem to be living just fine. It's like if you don't want to do those things, you either end up like homeless or in prison. Like there's really no other way. Like they've designed it so that we don't have a choice, and I get it. Like they want to control us, but it's like, bro, come on, can you just let us live?
When Captain James Cook arrived on the South Pacific coast, he found the indigenous population had a taboo about men and women eating together, which is where we get the word taboo. But there was no particular reason behind it that any of the indigenous population could articulate. They just know you don't eat together. So in Hawaii, when King Kamehameha II broke the taboo by having a big dinner party that was the first luau, afterwards everyone started eating together without any real resistance because there was no reason behind the taboo. It was just a dead tradition, which is what tradition is. It's peer pressure from dead people. Similarly, it feels like everyone is like the indigenous Hawaiian population with the education system. We all know it's not working. We all know it's not teaching us real things. We don't know the reason that it exists, just like the Hawaiians didn't know the reason for the taboo. But we all just keep doing it out of some kind of dead tradition. We're propping up the corpse of the education system like a marionette. But as soon as this tradition is broken and we have a good education system, or one that at least works for the needs of students, nobody will fight to keep the current system that we already have. And I think the heart of what I'm saying was so well encapsulated by Carl Sagan many years ago. Tell me this is not like the most true quote you've ever seen in your life. And tell me how this quote is not a national emergency that's being broadcast on every television network and political debate across the country. You go talk to kindergarten kids or first grade kids. You find a class full of science enthusiasts, and they ask deep questions. What is a dream? Why do we have toes? Why is the moon round? What is the birthday of the world? Why is grass green? They just bubble right out of them. You go talk to 12th grade students, and there's none of that. They become leaden and incurious. Something terrible has happened between kindergarten and 12th grade. And that's right. We all know how curious first graders are. You give them any answer to a question, and they'll ask why a million more times. You get to 12th grade, and if you're into science, if you really want to know the secrets to the universe we all miraculously inhabit, you're labeled a nerd. Wow, how have we possibly gotten to this bleak state of affairs? You read anything from anyone ever, from like anyone who's ever had a thought, from like W.E. Du Bois to Aristotle to Thomas Aquinas to John D. Rockefeller to Marie Antoinette to Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and they all extol education as the greatest thing since Obama. But now, because we've had this rote, dehumanizing school system burned into our cortex every day, school has managed to achieve the impossible. They've really managed to make human beings, naturally curious human beings, the only species who has ever asked a question, human beings, who were either created by God or evolved from a miraculous primordial soup and gained consciousness from a fascinatingly immense process and universe. You've managed to make those people not want to know anything. I've never seen such a remarkable destruction of human spirit. A lot of us have heard about the Stanford prison experiment, where a group of volunteers is randomly assigned to be a prison guard or prisoner, and the prison guards immediately crush the spirit of the prisoners, make them feel worthless and incompetent. Well, that experiment was actually fake, but really, that experiment was real. It's called the education system. And that's when you're learning it all. We've all been to school and we know how much of it is spent on like worthless announcements or administration or things that have nothing to do with learning whatsoever. I know as students, we often felt relieved when a teacher wouldn't make us do schoolwork that period. And this all reminds me of how I did school on set a lot of times as an actor. And for child actors, you only need to get 3 hours of education a day. And I remember first learning about that. I was like, that's so little. Like in public school where there's 6-7 hours a day. I can't believe I just said 6-7. But now reflecting on it, in real school, we don't really spend that much more than 3 hours a day tangibly learning something. Or if we do, it all vanishes the second we're done learning it. I know someone who went through AP US history, where supposedly you get this exhaustive examination of everything that happened from like 1600 to now. And he doesn't know anything about US history, even though we got a 5 on the test. Because what's rewarded in APUSH? What's rewarded is getting enough information to pass the DBQs on AP test day, and then never remembering it ever again. And you'll see people who take APUSH are often the most incurious about US history, because for them it was just this random collection of arbitrary statistics and dates, rather than a fascinating look at the reasons we have a president, at the reasons we have economic racial disparities, at the reasons why our school system as it is a nightmare. Theoretically, if you had a deep understanding of US history, you'd feel so empowered by it. It would mean you know how the system got us to where we are, and you'd know how the system can make that change. Or at least you'd feel inspired by the great things your ancestors did, or whatever. You'd feel some kind of emotion about anything. Like, I think we've all heard of Alexander the Great, or Napoleon, or William McKinley. But how many of us have, like, opinions about them as rulers and what it meant for the world, whether they were good or bad? Like, they were all so significant. You have to think they're either good or bad. But school gives us rote information completely devoid of all humanity and all context. So we hate it. But if we learned with context, if we learned with humanity, if we learned the first time women voted was because in the 1870s, the WASP American population wanted to get rid of the Mormons. They found their polygamy repugnant to Christian ideals. So the rest of the country came up with a plan. They said, let's grant suffrage to the women only in Utah, because obviously, the thinking went, the women will vote against polygamy. There's no way they could be enjoying it, and therefore we'll get rid of the Mormons. Well, the Mormons heard about this, and they were so outraged that the rest of the country thought their women weren't on board with polygamy, that the Mormons decided, you know what, we will give them the right to vote, just to prove to you that they'll vote for polygamy. On Election Day in 1878, everyone held their breath as women cast the first ballots in United States history on the tenets of Mormonism. And overwhelmingly, they upheld them. And then after that, the Mormons were like, all right, we're done. Now women can't vote anymore. Like, this is amazing stuff, and it just shows how, like, history is not a straight line. Like, women could vote and then they couldn't, and if you understand that, like, of course that's so gripping rather than just a bunch of arbitrary dates. Look, education is the most fundamental part of any human being. It literally shapes your mind and tells you what's important and what isn't. We can't afford to get this wrong, so we need to stop doing what we're doing now before it's irreversible. What's your experience in education? I'll be responding to as many comments as I can. A lot of what I say in these videos is informed by what you guys tell me down below. Also, I recently put out my first original musical. It's 20 minutes long. It's about a kid who rethinks what's important in life when his friend suddenly dies. And I think it's the theatrical instantiation of a lot of the themes I talk about in these videos. So I'd love if you check it out. Link in the description. And hopefully you can click the link in the description because you're not Gen Alpha who doesn't know what that word means. Thanks to our wonderful patrons for helping make this possible. Bob, Eric, Guy, Matt, Rasmus, Ameleconomics, MV Keaton, Nicholas, Tito, Firewolf, Jay, Kendall, John, Anthony, Axolla, and our newest patron, Jace. Welcome, Jace. If you're able to support this channel's mission, we'd love to have you join the community. Thanks for watching.